Hi everybody, today I'm really excited to do some case studies on two pre-owned C&S Constructions corsets. So here's the first one, which is made out of this like holographic silver material. I love it so much. I hope that with the lighting in this video that the rainbow is coming out on this because it looks really cool in person. But let me talk about the details of this corset and then I will talk about the details of the purple lace overlay corset. So here's the front, the side, the back, and the other side. The corset that I'm wearing now and the corset that you're going to see in a couple of minutes were both not made for me. They were made for one of C&S's fit models, and I won't mention her name just in case she wants to, to have some privacy. But you can actually go onto C&S's Corsets website and see her wearing the exact same corsets. Fortunately, she and I seem to have similar measurements, but I believe her hip is just a little bit larger than mine. As usual, my thin hips getting me into trouble. But I am really surprised by how comfortable and how flattering this fits me, even though it wasn't made for me. So because this corset was custom made and custom made for somebody else, the measurements don't really matter that much because if you're going to be ordering from them, you're going to be ordering them custom to your measurements as well. But for those who are curious, the center front here is 10.5 inches. At the princess seam, it's 9.5 inches. The side seam here is 9.5 inches, I believe again, and in the center back it is a little bit longer at 11.5 inches. For the circumferential measurements, the waist is 21 inches, and I have to say this is one of the most comfortable 21-inch corsets I've ever worn. Usually these days my comfortable limit is about 22 inches. I can go smaller, but I prefer not to. But this is a super comfortable 21 inches. You can see I've closed it in the back. So this is a very thin and lightweight corset that might have something to do with it, as well as the silhouette of it, very rounded over the rib cage, and you can see that in the center front. The bust is designed to bow and flex and come in at the center front. So that might have something to do with how comfortable this corset is because it's not all coming off of the waist and it's not compressing my rib cage. But to move on with the other measurements here, the underbust is 29 inches and the high hip here is 34 inches. And here is the next C&S corset. So here is the front, the side, the back, and the other side. So you can see that this corset is quite a bit different from the holographic one. This one is definitely more long line. It's 12.5 inches in the center front, 11 inches at the princess seam here, so it is just the right length of my torso. If it were just half an inch longer, it might be too long for me. The side seam here is 11.5 inches. And in the center back, it's 13 inches. This corset is also a little bit smaller, so it's 20 inches closed waist. The underbust here is 28 inches when closed, and the bottom hip here is 35 inches when closed. So you can see that I'm wearing it with a pretty even 1-inch gap in the back here. And for the silhouette, you can see that this one is definitely more conical through the rib cage here. It's more straight through the front here, although you can see that when I turn to the side, the busk still flexes and it comes inward at the waist here. And because the hips come down longer, then the hip spring is visually a little bit more dramatic here. And I can feel that it comes out to an almost hip shelf to about there and then comes back down a little bit. So let's go to the tabletop portion of this review and I can show you the details of this purple corset with the lace overlay and also the silver holographic corset. So here is the holographic corset laid flat, and for the materials it seems to be two main layers. The fashion fabric is this amazing holographic type of silver foil material. It almost looks like interwoven threads of very fine tinsel. And then on the inside here, it is a single layer of black herringbone couture. And here's a long line corset with a more conical silhouette. And for the materials, this is 3 main layers. So the fashion fabric is this really lush, like a Cadbury purple satin, and it's overlaid completely with this black floral lace. And then on the inside, it seems to be this really finely woven black cotton drill. And I was looking to see, oh, is it like a super fine coutil? And I don't think it is, because they use strips of herringbone coutil for the center front and center back here. And I'm wondering if the satin they used was actually kind of like a cotton back satin or a satin coutil. So the satin itself might also contribute to the strength of it, because I feel that the satin is kind of thick. Now there's no CNS label in the hologram corset. There is a label in the purple corset, and you can see on this side it says CNS and then constructions, and it's just a tiny label right by the back grommets here. And it seems like this corset has only a 4-panel pattern, which makes it even more surprising considering how incredibly curvy it is. But let me show you the pattern from the inside, because I think it might be a little bit easier to see, as I know that the fashion fabric is a little bit mesmerizing. So this seems to be panel 1, panel 2, panel 3, and a very large panel 4 here. And in the center front and center back, they had also laid down these parallel strips of fabric here to hold the busk, and perhaps an adjacent boning channel here. And also the boning channels and the grommets in the back. And as far as the construction goes, I was surprised to see that the construction is a little bit more rugged than I'm used to seeing. You can see the overlocking or the zigzag stitching here, and the top stitching here is not quite as tidy as you would see in an off-the-rack corset company. But I don't know if it's because this was a sample for one of their models and they didn't really care what it looked like on the inside, if this was just the way that corsets were made back in the 90s or whatnot. Because CNS Corsets has been in business for longer than like 90% of corset companies out there. Probably in business from when I was a child. So I don't know if this was a fairly standard way of constructing corsets. And it's an extremely strong corset, don't get me wrong. It's just not as tidy as I'm accustomed to seeing in many corsets today. But all the panels are assembled with a very sturdy top stitch, and all of the boning channels are actually on the outside here. These are separate boning channels that were pressed and laid down here on the outside so that the inside remained fairly smooth. And once again, turning to the inside, this has a 4-panel pattern, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And the center front and center back have 2 really skinny parallel patterns, so it doesn't really contribute to the curviness of the corset that comes from the other 4 here. And with this corset, it seems that all 3 layers seem to be flat lined together, and they were assembled using a sturdy top stitch here with the seams facing outward. And on the outside here, you can see that external boning channels were again laid down on top of this. It seems almost like black satin coutil, but it is a pre-finished ribbon, because you can see it has that decorative edging on the outside. It's the same ribbon that was used for the binding here. So these external boning channels were laid down on the seams, and then there are extra bones in the middle of the panels as well, and these are just sandwiched between the layers, between the satin and the lining here. And when I pull this corset taut, you might be able to see the outline of the waist tape here, running from the center back here to what appears to be the front panel, perhaps to the center front. I see the outline right there. In this corset, the waist tape is very easy to see, and you can see that it runs from the first panel here all the way to the center back here. And the binding in the hologram corset is made from matching strips of this foily hologram fabric, and you can see it's very colorful. It matches perfectly. Unfortunately, the fabric itself seems to be a little bit delicate. You can see that it's shredding from age here. That's unfortunate. And the binding was attached on by a zigzag stitch here, and you can see on the inside the zigzag stitch again. And unfortunately there is some wear to it, but at least that's on the inside, so it's not that visible. I might have to cut these off though. And the binding on this purple corset is made out of the same boning channels that you see here, and it was stitched on using a zigzag stitch on the outside and also on the inside here. Now, because I purchased these corsets secondhand, neither of them came with a Modesty panel, and I'm not sure if that's because it's a sample or if it was misplaced or whatnot. When I looked on CNS's website, they said that all corsets do come with a Modesty panel in the back. And because they do bespoke corsets, I'm sure you could request a Modesty panel in the back, even if it didn't ordinarily come with any. But both corsets do come with a Modesty placket in the front here, finished in black herringbone couture here, and it has a bone underneath here, so that makes it a little bit more stiff, and it extends out at least another ½ an inch outside of the busk here, so that that stiffness extends across both sides of the busk here. And with the purple lace corset, the boned Modesty placket here is finished in black satin couture instead of the herringbone couture. The busk in this holographic corset is 9 inches long, and it has 5 loops and pins, all equidistantly spaced. And they are a standard flexible busk, quite flexible as you can see here, and you can see how it flexed on my body when I was wearing it as well. Now, the bone Modesty placket does give it a little bit more sturdiness, a little bit more stiffness, but you can see when it was on my body that it flexed with my body as well. Unsurprisingly, the busk is a lot longer in this corset. It is 11 inches long. It again has 5 loops and pins, all equidistantly spaced, and it is a standard flexible busk. So you could see when it was on my body, it was flexing a lot as well. This does have the boned Modesty placket underneath once again, so it does give it a little bit more stiffness, but not so much that it doesn't prevent bowing when it's on my body. But I'm guessing that's more of the style of this corset, that they designed for the corset to flex a little bit in the front to achieve a larger reduction. That's my guess, because a lot of C&S's corsets seem to have that bow in the front, and some people kind of prefer to have a little bit of flexibility in the front as well. I know that today corsets are just perfectly flat in the center front, and that is the more fashionable thing, but it could have been when these corsets were originally made, it was more fashionable to have a flexible front. This corset has a grand total of 11 steel bones. So it's 5 on each side, single boned on the seams, plus that 11th one is this stiffened Modesty placket here. Of course, that's not including the front busk here. So like I said before, single bone on the seams, 1, 2, 3, and it also has bones sandwiching the grommets on each side. And you can see that they all attract quite strongly to my magnet here, as well as the placket here. And I was mistaken before, this is not a boning channel. It is wide enough to hold a bone, but it doesn't actually have a bone in it. This particular corset is more heavily boned. It has 17 bones total. So on each side it has 8 bones, and then the 17th one is this stiffened Modesty placket here. So once again, it is single boned on the seams with external boning channels, and you can see that they all attract my magnet. And in the middle of the panels, there are those sandwiched bones right there. And once again, the 2 1/4 inch wide flat steel bones in the back by the grommets. There are a total of 30 grommets in the back of the hologram corset, so 15 on each side. They are fairly equidistantly spaced above and below the waistline here, about 3/4 of an inch apart, pretty close. And then right at the waistline here, it's closer to ½ an inch apart for ease of cinching up. There are washers actually underneath the top hat part of the grommets here, as well as washers on the underside. So you can see that it has like double support there. And I was kind of wondering why they put washers on the overside as well. And I'm guessing that is due to the fact that the fashion fabric is so delicate and tends to fray and shred. They probably put that over because if they had to cut holes for the grommets, or if they had to use an awl to spread the fibers there, it probably didn't look very good, or maybe it just made the fabric fray too much there. So I can understand why they would put extra washers on the top there. And I don't mind it actually, because it gives a little bit more of an industrial feel to it. On the underside of this corset, you can see that the grommets had all rolled really smoothly. There's no splits in these. They're quite nice and tidy. And you'll see that in the purple corset, they actually have the petals that are splayed out. It's more like an eyelet that had the perforations in the back. So there are definitely different grommets from one corset to the next. And there are a lot of grommets in the back of this corset, a total of 34 of them, 17 on each side. They are size X00, I believe, an internal diameter of only 4 millimeters, and the flange is so tiny,
but at the same time, they are not pulling out, even though I am the second owner of this and I have pulled this tight. Like, I was not very gentle on this at all. The bones sandwiching the grommets are very close together as well, so that might help with some of the stability, but I don't see any of them coming out whatsoever. I don't see any damage around these grommets. Oh, also they are about 3/4 of an inch apart above and below the waistline, and right at the waistline they're only about 1/2 inch apart, so that makes cinching up really easy. And you could see that I didn't have any problems with like bowing in the back either. It just remained really nice and straight. And this is what the back of the grommets look like. So you can see many splits in these. These have splayed out like a flower, so I'm guessing that these are actually one-part eyelets, and they might have purchased the washers separately, I'm guessing. But the washers are enormous compared to the top part of the grommet, because when you're pulling on the corset, you're pulling basically from the outside. So if a grommet was going to pull out, it would most likely be from the inside here. So this provides a really nice backing to prevent them from pulling out. But you can see that they are all pretty well, you know, stuck in there. None of them are pulling out. I don't see a lot of damage. Despite the fact that there are so many splits in the back, it actually does not catch on the laces. And the laces are, I believe, this 1/8 inch wide nylon shoelace style lacing, zero stretch to it. I love this style of lacing actually. It's a workhorse and it's very smooth and comfortable when I'm lacing up. It doesn't cut into my hands. Once again, they're resistant to catching or fraying. They're very difficult to rip, so these are great.
And this concludes my review / case study of these 2 corsets made by C&S Constructions. So I hope you enjoyed it and you learned something new. If you did, please remember to click that like button down there, as it helps support this channel. And if you have a corset by C&S Constructions as well, leave us a comment down below and let us know what you think of it. If you have any comments or questions about this corset or C&S Constructions in general, feel free to leave a comment below. I will try to get back to you, but once again, these corsets were purchased secondhand and I was just really lucky that they fit me as well as they do. But I will try to answer your questions as best as I can. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all next week for another video. Bye.